Hey, what's up, everybody? We are doing our first live video podcast. Zach, it's exciting, man.
Eek!
Uh, our first video podcast, we are going to go through a free agency prepper for you guys. We got a lot of info here, and at least I do. Zach was preoccupied this morning with a dentist appointment. Zach, would you like to enlighten us a little bit on that, or is it too
I
soon?
mean, people know the dentist. If they want to feel sorry for me, they can. Listen, I hadn't been to a dentist in probably closer to 4 years than 3 years. And, it could have gone a lot worse, Evan, as you know. My loving
Sure.
brother, you guys, um, made a 2.5 bet, and he bet the over on how many cavities I would have. And I did achieve the under. And it's
Yeah.
basically, honestly, it's basically one cavity. It's just like the spot between two of my molars. So I'm only going to need one injection. This is probably TMI, but I just got to get this off my chest.
Yeah. See,
So
I just wanted to give you the opportunity to get it off your chest, man. So
yeah, and people need to know.
yeah, no
So
doubt.
thank you for that.
So all right, man. Enough with that. Let's get started. Before this freaking blizzard, man.
Oof,
Uh,
or
we are about to get pounded, guys, with like 2 to 3 feet of
2 feet, at
snow.
least 2 feet over here,
And so
Col-
after this,
Colorado and Wyoming, respectively.
yeah. So after this, I am planning on stashing some food and hibernating for a little bit.
Yeah.
I ordered like 4 pizzas last night,
What?
and yeah, I used the blizzard as an excuse to order 4 pizzas. So
My gosh.
um,
Where
I'm
are
just
they
gonna
now?
stash it. They're in my refrigerator.
Okay.
Half of them are in my um, stomach, but you know how it goes. All right, man.
Yeah, I
Let's get
I
started with.
myself. Sorry, I was going to say I had pizza last night as well. See over there.
Yeah, you're delaying a little bit. Um, all right, so whoa, your screen went weird.
Oh no, it's the storm.
Yeah, it's a start.
The storm has begun.
Here, I'll be right. We'll be right back, guys. I'm gonna fix this. All right, I'm just gonna fix. Okay, it's fixed. Never mind. We're good. That was weird.
Oh,
Sorry about
nice.
that, everyone. Let's get started though, Zach. Um, let's just give me some concerns you have heading into this new league year as a diehard Broncos fan. Just vent a little bit on some concerns you're having.
Well, I certainly have fewer concerns and smaller concerns since we tagged Simmons. That was a relief. George Payton's priorities are so far so good, and it sounds like he is wanting to keep Von Miller, which I'm honestly still a little torn about because um, letting him go would save us a ton of money. I
Right.
think he's past his prime. He's over the hill in football years. He's coming off a serious injury. So, I mean, letting him go would save us a lot of money. But at the same time, he's one of the best players in franchise history. He like single-handedly won a Super Bowl 50. So I'm torn. I mean, we kind of already need edge help anyway. So, I mean, if he's healthy, if he's in good shape, like he was before the injury last offseason, I'm okay with keeping him on board because, relatively speaking, we're still in pretty good salary cap. Um, we're in a good spot as far as salary cap right now. I think we're in the top 10 in cap space
Yeah.
as it stands before cuts and tenders and all that. So,
Right.
yeah, Vaughn, the Vaughn situation has got to be up there. I want to see what happens with Lindsey. I would imagine they would at least tender him and see if that gets matched. And then, of course, corner and quarterback are probably the two biggest concerns.
Right.
I don't know if Locke is the answer. He hasn't really played like he's the next franchise guy, but at the same time, I kind of want to give him another year. And, corner, we let Boye go. I liked that. He wasn't working out. He wasn't playing up to his potential, and he saved us a good chunk of money. So, I mean, Bryce Callahan is fine. And Ojemudia was fairly impressive as a rookie, but aside from them, there's not much going. So those are my biggest concerns.
Yeah. Like how you hit on Justin Simmons. Obviously, it's got to be your main goal this offseason as George Payton coming into Denver, re-signing Simmons, and you touched on Von Miller. I could go either way, honestly. I think he's still got some juice left in him,
Yeah.
and I'm basing that before his injury because people were saying he looked awesome. So,
Yeah, he was having a really good offseason, which just made it even worse.
yeah. So I bet you that I mean, he said he wants to stay a Bronco the rest of his career. So I bet you he is willing to restructure his contract.
Restructure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then so that's what I think will happen. If that happens, I'm not so concerned about the edge position. Although
Mm-hmm.
we could always get some depth there, and we need depth there. Um, and we don't know how he's going to look. I mean, he might be he might be on a snap count now.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Some insurance would be nice.
Yeah. So, and I know you touched on this, but let's head into strictly speaking free agency. What are some corners, or I said corners, I meant concerns, but goes hand in hand here. Um, what are some positions that you would like to see dealt with before we go into the draft?
Yeah. Quarterback is honestly probably the top one. That's just a glaring need. So, guys like William Jackson. And I mean, the free agent cornerbacks aren't like top tier guys, but some of them are pretty good. William Jackson, he might be one of the best ones out there. And Evan, I would like to see Chidobe Awuzie. I may not be saying that right, but I'd like to see him come back to Colorado because he played college ball at CU. He's been okay for the Cowboys. So I wonder if we would, entertain an offer for him and see if you'd want to come back over here by the mountains.
Right.
That would make sense to me. And then I don't really like Richard Sherman. I mean,
Yeah.
he's getting older too, and he would be more expensive, of course. So yeah, Awuzie or William Jackson would alleviate some of my concern. What about you?
So here's my issue with someone like William Jackson. You said it yourself. This isn't the best cornerback market out there.
Right.
So naturally, the price is going to go up for the top one, which does seem to be William Jackson. And I mean, just looking at his PFF account right now, 71 grade last year, pretty decent. That's a little above average, I think. 2019 wasn't so hot, 53.6. 2018, 73.4. So, he's going to get stellar money for being pretty much an average quarterback. And, the situation, like PFF says here, the situation has been ugly in Cincinnati, and their defense hasn't been great. Uh,
Yeah.
but I don't like overpaying, especially the Juwan James gate, right? uh,
Yes.
and we'll probably touch on him later. But I don't like overpaying when it's not worth it. So, like you said, I could totally see a Woozy or a Woozier, whatever floats your boat. Coming back to Colorado, there could be mutual interest there. And but again, he had a poor year last year, and it was kind of confusing because he came off of his best year in 2019. PFF grade of 72 in 2019, 52 in 2020. Um,
Uh,
and and the truth is, like, he plays a lot better in zone schemes. Um, and I think he gets burned a lot on an island. He isn't the
yeah.
speediest guy, but if the asking price is okay, I wouldn't mind that. I'll tell you a couple people I'm looking at before we move on to the next position. Actually, I have a little bit of a list here. I think there's quite a bit of depth in the cornerback free agency, actually. Not necessarily starting positions, but, filtering in and out, which we do a lot. I mean, OJ Mudia and, Bosby when he was with us. There was a lot of filtering in and out. And so I think Fangio likes quite a bit of depth there. And so one guy I really like is Brian Poole from the Jets. I think I mentioned that to you. And
Mm.
really good, solid grades. He's more of a slot corner. I don't know if that's necessarily something we need, but Callahan has proved that he can play outside corner and play it elite. You know, he was elite last year. So I think Brian Poole, he's 28 years old in his prime. 77 grade last year, 79 grade the year before. One of the better slot corners. Um, let's see here. He has allowed just one touchdown and a passer rating of under 70 when targeted over that stretch. So over his um,
Okay.
last couple of years. So could be a steal. I mean, they're projecting a 3-year contract here, 18 million total. So you're not going to break the bank like someone with William Jackson. So he's someone I'm looking at. And then another one, I kind of want to hear your thoughts on this. How about Jason Verrett? He's almost 30, which is kind of old.
Yeah, he's had an injury history too.
Yeah. But I mean, he
But
was
I
healthy last year and he played
yeah,
almost, you know, way above average.
he was good.
Uh, so if you want to risk that, I mean, they're projecting a 2-year, $10 million contract there. But the thing is, he might go back to the Niners. I think there's mutual interest there. So
Yeah. Especially if they lose Sherman, I would think.
yeah, and I think there's mutual interest there too. I mean, we'll see. And then just one more guy that I haven't even heard of before I looked some people up. um, have you heard of Cameron Sutton?
Yes.
All right, Pittsburgh.
Hmm.
He's had a couple good years under his belt.
Mm.
Past two, he's versatile. I mean, he's played in the slot outside, and with that, he has got a 69 grade this past year, 74 grade year before. So even like a 1-year contract for some of these guys, I'd be fine with.
Yeah.
While you let OJ Mudia or um, our young guys develop, and then obviously we would probably get a corner sometime during the draft. But the goal of this is to fill your needs and then to allow you to take the best player available, which is what Peyton said he would like to do. Um, so I don't want to break the bank, but I mean, If we did get William Jackson, I mean, I'd be surprised, but I wouldn't
Yeah,
necessarily be upset about it. It's just he's not the best, but um,
and kind of, I mean, I would prefer Sutton's teammate personally, if you know who I'm referring to.
Mike Hilton,
Yeah.
yeah,
Um, but I actually kind of like the Verrett idea. He was really good with the Chargers. Like I said, he's had some injuries. He was probably underrated, I would say, last year with the Niners.
yeah,
And then another name, I mean, they might resign him, but Bashad Breeland.
hmm
He's, I mean, it's tough with this cornerback market because, like we said, there aren't any top tier guys. So you're probably going to have to overpay for these. I don't want to say mediocre, but a lot of them are mediocre.
yeah.
You're probably going to have to overpay for these mediocre cornerbacks, and I just don't know if I want the Broncos to be doing that. But I would take a lot of these guys over most of the guys we have now. And so, but Bashad Breeland, Desmond King, you know, he
hmm
signed with went to the Titans last year. So those are a couple names too that I wouldn't mind donning the Broncos uniform.
So
So
let me, before we move on, let me go down this list I had here of potential ones. I wouldn't be surprised if one of these people became a Broncos. We had the aforementioned William Jackson. Desmond King was number 2 on my list. Zach.
mhm.
Shaquille Griffin was on there. Not the best year
Oh,
last year, but
okay.
he had a pretty good year. 10th cornerback in 2019, according to PFF. So um, he's
Wow.
probably gonna get more money than he deserves, but option there. Troy Hill was next of the Rams. He's getting up there in age 29, but he's pretty steady. I mean, every year
Yeah.
he's um, coming pretty steady here. It looks like.
That was Yeah, that was a good secondary, and he was kind of unheralded behind
Right.
Jalen Ramsey and John Johnson and those
Yeah,
guys.
that's exactly my thinking. He was kind of buried and forgotten about, but he held his ground. Chidobe
Mhm.
Awuzie, like you said, Brian Poole could be a steal. Um, and coming from the Jets, I mean, he still put up really good grades. He was ranked the ninth cornerback last year and 11th cornerback this year. And if you think about, the Jets defense was horrendous, so that's even more impressive. Um, After Brian
Yep.
Poole, Quentin Dunbar is an interesting one. Terrible year this year, but dude, he was second. He was the second graded cornerback last year for the Seahawks. So another maybe 2 year deal there. Um, Xavier Rhodes, another guy, had a pretty good, had a really good year this year, ranked ninth out of all the cornerbacks on PFF. He's 30 years old. Uh, Maybe he just wasn't a fit with the Vikings, but the Colts seemed to fit him well, and he fit their scheme well. Jason Verrett, we mentioned, Kawon Williams, and Cameron Sutton closes out the cornerbacks. So one of those guys, we we could get. But um, any more
Yeah,
thoughts, Zach, before we
yeah.
head out?
You were kind of, oh, yeah, you were kind of breaking up, and a little delayed, but I like all those names. I would imagine that the Jets would want to bring Poole back, with Robert Saleh there now, defensive-minded head coach who was a guru for the 49ers. I would want to think he'd try to keep that defense together. I mean, they just brought Marcus May back. So, I mean, I would like to have Brian Poole because, like you said, he is underrated, in my opinion. Xavier Rhodes is another name that doesn't get talked about a lot, but he played well with the Colts. He was
hmm
underrated for them, too. So, it would be nice if these guys weren't re-signed. That doesn't mean the Broncos will like full steam ahead for any of these guys, but they've got to consider most, if not all, of these guys that we're talking about.
Right. So you mentioned Quarterbacks earlier, let's touch on them just because that's what everyone wants to talk about these days. And I don't know. I guess we'll just start with Fitzmagic. He's number one on my list. I wouldn't mind that at all. And really, dude, like, they've said there's been talk of bringing in a veteran, obviously. But what we do in free agency with the quarterback position really could hint at what we're going to do in the draft with our ninth overall pick, in my opinion. So, say we bring in someone like Ryan Fitzpatrick, my gut feeling is we're probably not going to draft a quarterback ninth overall. But
Yeah.
say it's someone like Jacoby Brissett or CJ Beathard down here at my list. Then I'm more open to the thought of, okay, maybe they're keeping the door open for um, drafting a quarterback. So I don't know. Give us your thoughts before we go down this little list here.
Yeah, this is again, the Broncos picked the wrong offseason to have these needs at these positions because with corner and quarterback, they're pretty slim pickings, um,
Hmm.
at least since Dak was signed.
Right.
But I mean, the two best quote unquote available aren't even free agents, and that's Watson and Russell Wilson. And the Broncos
Right.
just don't have the firepower to go for those guys right now. So, like you said, Fitzpatrick, if he doesn't retire, I would think if we did sign a QB, it would be a veteran guy, um, with the idea that they would kind of take Locke under their wing, or at the same time be a capable starter if Locke underperformed. So guys like Fitzpatrick or Andy Dalton or like Brissett, like you said, someone like that. And then I don't like this idea, but Trubisky is out there. I don't like it, Evan, but
Right.
he has some history with Fangio, and I mean, to me, that would just be kind of like signing someone in the same grain as Locke because
Right.
Trubisky's more of a fantasy quarterback anyway. And I mean, he played relatively well last year, but he's just not consistent, and he's not your future, in my opinion.
Hmm.
So it's just another position where there's not top tier guys available that we can go
Right.
after pretty hard.
I mean, there's only. I feel like if Deshaun Watson did become available, which I still am doubtful he does this season, I really think he may sit a season. It might end up coming down to that. But I'd be remiss not to bring him up anyway. Uh,
You think they would let him hold out before trading him for a bunch of goodies?
I mean, I thought that for a while there until the recent comments of, gosh, who was it? Some quarterback. Oh, Jay Cutler. Uh, they
Cutler.
yeah, over and over again in their press conferences. He is our quarterback right now. Yes, he's our
Uh,
quarterback right now. And he got traded same offseason.
yeah.
So it kind of has that vibe to it, really.
Yeah, I mean, when they say words like right now, like duh, they're not really saying anything because they could just
Hmm.
be traded tomorrow.
Right. So, um, honestly, like you said, I'm not exactly sure if we have the firepower to go for Watson, and we're not on Russ's list. So, uh, there is mutual interest between Watson and the Broncos. It seems like from what we've heard. Um, but the Panthers seem all out on him.
Dude, I was just thinking he would be so good with Carolina, and that's
Yeah,
where he played college ball. But yeah,
fantasy dream right there. I mean,
yes.
resurrect DJ Moore's
Whoa,
fantasy value.
don't you be talking about DJ like that. He doesn't need no resurrecting, okay?
I had to do it, man.
Oh my word.
Uh,
Ooh, you're
Speaking of
getting me
which,
all worked up.
is Curtis Samuel a
Curtis?
free agent?
Yeah, he could be leaving, which I wouldn't mind him leaving, not just for DJ Moore's sake, but he he could be better utilized for sure. Which,
right?
I mean, he could be if Deshaun comes over there and they keep Samuel. That would be a lot of fun. But
Yeah, I think he'll be highly sought out for if he does become available.
yeah,
All right, back on track here. We talked about Ryan Fitzpatrick. I mean, I would like that if they are still wanting to develop Locke. Ryan Fitzpatrick seems to me like the best option. I got a weird vibe from him. There was a report that he may be retiring when the Broncos, excuse me, allegedly reached out,
yeah,
uh, which is confusing in that way too because that's wouldn't that be tampering? That's what I thought or understood, but so I don't know if he's interested in the Broncos. Who knows? Maybe he feels like he can start and doesn't want necessarily a battle. Good luck with that. But um, I'd be happy. I mean, look at his season grades. All in the 70s. 2018 was 84, 10th quarterback. I mean, every time he comes in, there's a reason why he has the name Fitzmagic
yeah.
to him. So
He was not
I
treated fairly last year.
no,
I really like Fitzpatrick, and he's not only a good quarterback and a good leader, but he is a good fantasy quarterback too, because he can tuck it and run,
yeah,
which
yeah.
at 38 years old,
That's one other thing that worries me is he's 38, but who knows, man. Let's get on to this next guy here. Interesting topic. Jameis Winston. What do you
uh,
feel about him?
I don't know, man. I hate turnovers.
Yeah.
Like I
I
love Apple turnovers, but I hate interceptions. And Jameis is just a turnover machine. And you know this, Evan. I had him a couple of years ago, and he was like a top five fantasy QB, but you could just count on one or two picks every game. It seemed like. I
yeah.
mean, he'd get you 300 yards, but he'd cost you some games too. So I don't know if I want to deal with that again.
Yeah, he's not really a Fangio Bronco, if you will.
Yeah, he's not the
Um,
Fangio type.
yeah. So I don't know. I could see that. I mean, he filled in well for the Saints. Um, but he played 55 snaps last year. I really don't know what Sean Payton um, is going to do with him. So he may
Yeah.
want to resign him for all we know. So will be interesting. Uh, but I think we both agree we'll take a rain check on that one.
Yeah.
Um, Cam Newton resigned with the Patriots today, 1 year deal.
Mhm.
So he is no longer available. It was kind of an interesting resign, but I mean, I'm not going to question Belichick. So Andy Dalton is the next one, Zach. Um, kind of your poor man's Ryan Fitzpatrick in a way for our situation. What are your thoughts on him?
I mean, like I said, I'd be okay with him coming in, and like I said, he could serve two purposes, being that he could advise and mentor Locke, but at the same time, he could start if he needed to, if Locke got hurt or if he wasn't playing well. So I honestly wouldn't really mind that kind of acquisition, um, which would also probably tell me that the Broncos would go somewhere else in the draft, like hopefully cornerback, like you
Right.
alluded to. Um, so yeah, someone like Fitzpatrick or Dalton, I'd probably prefer that kind of veteran over Jameis, I guess.
Yeah, and I'm going to get into this with the tackles once we get there. You have a lot of options this free agency that kind of have a rival tag with them, I guess you could say, because you got all
Mhm.
those Chiefs tackles that were just released. You got Tyrod Taylor here. Um, you know, they probably come with the stigma of, hey, you released me. How can I get back at you? Hey, the Broncos
Hmm.
play them twice a year. So,
Yeah,
um,
that's what a lot of players do.
yeah, I mean, we saw that with Melvin Gordon last year, which
Hmm.
was already and Chris Harris for that matter.
Yeah.
So, Tyrod Taylor brings me to him. I've seen him. I think Woody Page is kind of high on him, uh, and then I've also seen it where people are really low on him, and I don't know where I land exactly. I would say as a backup, sure, I feel a lot better him than Driscoll. uh,
Yes.
so and then you mentioned Mitch Trubisky. He might be like my second option, honestly, Zach, because he's been with the Bears his whole career, and maybe it's just not a good fit. I mean, you see that all over the place in the NFL, where a player goes to a new team and they blow up. So, and they're kind of alike, him and Locke, uh, similar issues and whatnot, similar skill set. So I honestly like 1 year, 2 year deal. I wouldn't mind like saying let the best man win, and then we sign long term. Hopefully, somebody long term. Um, Someone shows out and is our franchise quarterback if we don't go to the draft. So he might be my second option. And then you have Jacoby Brissett, and CJ Beathard is another interesting one. Seems like he always plays decently. It might be the friendly 49ers offense, but
Yeah. He's
yeah,
got some running ability too.
so a lot of options if you're looking for a backup. But like we said, this might give a good tell, or it may not, of what we're planning to do with our first pick. So, any more remarks on the quarterbacks?
No, I wish we had Dak or Deshaun or Russ.
Yeah. Hey, maybe we will. Who knows? Uh, I think I said in our podcast earlier in the year, it would be quite something if George Payton's first action was to
Yeah,
bring in Deshaun Watson.
bombshell.
Here you go, guys. You don't have to
But
worry
I
about that
mean,
anymore.
like we said, it'd have to be for the kitchen sink. So,
Yeah, it's gonna. I mean, I saw talk of three first rounders: Bradley Chubb.
oh
Um, yeah,
no,
uh, two defensive starters. So I don't know, man. It's Deshaun
no.
Watson, but at the same time, you gotta have other players. All
Yeah, you need a team.
right, let's go on to Boof. I kind of want to talk edge next, and then we'll quickly go over tackles. Edge slash defensive tackle interior. So um, I'm looking forward to this free agency for edge rushers. There's a lot of good names, unlike cornerback. I mean, going off the list here, you top six, seven: Shaq Barrett, Carl Lawson, Jadeveon Clowney, Yannick Okoki, whatever,
Yannick Ngakwe.
Ngakwe. How do you know that, but you can't get Awuzie, man? Uh, Melvin Ingram, Bud Dupree, Leonard Floyd, which has a connection to Fangio.
See, now we're talking.
Yeah. So I know one guy you want. You told me. You texted me last night. Explain why you
Yeah,
want
that
this guy
was
so bad.
that was mostly sarcastic. Shaq Barrett. It's just kind of funny how we let him go, and then he just completely tears apart the league and wins the Super Bowl.
Right.
And now he's probably the best free agent edge rusher available. So, I mean, it would be cool to see him come back, but I think that would only happen if we let Vaughn go, because he'll cost a pretty penny, and there will be teams who will be willing to pay big bucks for him after
Right.
the time and success he's had with Tampa Bay. So I just don't see that happening. And um, I would really like to have Carl Lawson. I really
Yeah.
like Lawson. He's still pretty young. Um,
25.
yeah, so that would be nice. But again, I mean, these teams like the Jags and Jets, I would imagine, will be, and even the Patriots, those are the three teams that far and away have the most salary cap space. I would think they would
Right.
be willing to pay much more than the Broncos and most other teams.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of these edge rushers are going to break the bank. and I'm looking specifically at Carl Lawson,
Yeah.
who really isn't a household name, but showed up well in his contract year, ranking 14th out of 109 edge rushers on PFF. So, um, and that dude, he is like jacked. Uh,
Yeah.
he tweeted out, um, he's been tweeting, I think he knows he's going to get a lot of money this offseason. But like you said, makes more sense if we get rid of Vaughn, not so much if we keep him. So that really needs to get, um, resolved fast
Hmm.
before free agency if possible.
Hmm.
um,
Yeah,
and I
because
mean,
these
I mean
guys.
they could know what's going to happen, and they'll head into free agency that way,
Hmm.
which could be another tell. But um, so Shaq Barrett
Yeah.
probably not. He's probably gonna. He's probably gonna. Sorry, I keep interrupting you. He's probably gonna go back to Tampa Bay. I mean, we know Arians wants him back, so
I would
uh,
imagine.
I would imagine he goes back there. J.J. Watt's taken Carl Lawson, and then Jadeveon Clowney and Yannick. You want to touch on any of those guys?
Well, I was just gonna say these guys are legitimate starters, and so if we keep Vaughn, I mean, they're probably not gonna be happy with their role, and with these other teams, one, they can start, and two, they'd probably be offered more. So I just
Right.
don't realistically see us signing any of these top edge guys.
So another, we mentioned the rival stigma. What do you think about Melvin Ingram coming to Denver, like
Yeah,
on a 1 year deal?
yeah, I was thinking about that, and I kind of like that idea because Melvin is pretty good when he's
Healthy.
on and when he's not
Yeah.
holding out and when he's healthy.
Yeah.
Um, would you prefer Ingram or Leonard Floyd?
Whew. Uh, Honestly, like, I don't want to overpay Floyd. I mean, he's kind of a big name coming into free agency just because he was with the Rams and he had a pretty good year, actually.
Hmm.
Probably his best year. Um, but out of the three, dude, I probably would want Bud Dupree out of three of them. But to answer your question, I would probably take Melvin Ingram just because it's probably a 1 to 2 year deal.
Yeah,
And he
he's
played,
old too.
yeah, but he still played better than Floyd. I mean,
Yeah, he's
let's
good.
see here. He only played 361 snaps, which is fine. I mean, edge rushers, you know, older edge rushers are gonna rotate in and out like he has been with the Chargers. But I mean, he's good, like you said, and he's been above average the past 3 years, while Leonard Floyd has been pretty much average his entire career. So I'd rather give Ingram a 1 to 2 year deal, and instead of paying Floyd probably a 3 year contract. So somewhere around there.
Hmm.
And then, dude, like Bud Dupree might be another 1 year option just because he may want to prove himself after an ACL injury like he had. So, what do you think about Bud Dupree?
Yeah, I would certainly like Bud Dupree. He probably has the highest upside of those three guys. I just don't see. I mean, this keeps coming up. I mean, like I said, the Broncos are in a decent salary cap situation, but I just don't see them paying up for Dupree. I just, I mean, they're going to get outbid on him. And again, if we keep Vaughn, I mean, yeah, Melvin probably makes the most sense because he could rotate with Vaughn, I guess, if the Broncos want to limit his snaps.
Right.
But Bud Dupree is probably just wishful thinking right now.
So, if you're getting down to the nitty gritty here for the edge rushers, Alden Smith is an interesting topic because um, we actually tried to get him, and the Cowboys were higher up on the waiver list.
Mm,
And he had a decent year coming back. Uh, but just
Yeah.
keep an eye on him because we really wanted him, and he could be one of your Melvin Ingram types where you bring him in on certain downs and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then another couple other guys I'll go down the list here. Hassan Reddick had a really good year last year for the Cardinals under Vance Joseph's defense. He's only 26 years old. He could be one of those 1 year, 2 year guys maybe. To Karis McKinley, he's an interesting topic. He was a first rounder. Do you remember that? I think he played for Bama a few years ago. He's only 25. He's been pretty average. He just can't really stay on the field. Um, he was on the Raiders. I didn't even really know that um,
Hmm.
because he wasn't
Yeah,
healthy. So
I still think of him as a Falcon too.
yeah, he was a Falcon to start his year. I remember him his draft year. So and then after that we have let's see, Romeo Aquara, pretty average guy, and Dalvin Tomlinson, who actually let me find him really quick. May have skipped over him.
Yeah, these
Uh,
lower guys are more realistic than the guys we were talking about earlier.
yeah.
But I don't know.
Anyway, so like you said, it really depends on Von Miller, and uh, you kind of have to break the bank a little bit if he's gone. But if he's not, you can add one of these lower guys. Dalvin Tomlinson was actually a interior defensive
Yeah,
lineman,
I think he's a tackle.
so that's why I couldn't find him. I didn't have that on here, which I thought I did. So yeah, he was. If we lose Shelby, hopefully not, but he's above average. He's had above average grades for the past 3 years, and he's only 27, dude. And so he's probably gonna sign a contract to stay. It looks like PFF has 4 year contract projected. Uh, so that's kind of tempting if you lose Shelby. I'd much rather have Shelby just because
Yeah.
um, seriously, he like kills a drive 2 to 3 times a game with his pass deflections.
Yeah,
It seems that way.
we should have mentioned him as one of the top priorities earlier because I agree
Yeah,
with that.
yeah. All right, so a lot of options there on edge, but unfortunately, it's still confusing for the Broncos as we have not wrapped up the Von Miller situation. Um,
Hmm.
but like I said earlier, they could know what's going to happen, and they should know what's going to happen, and head into free agency with that knowledge. So, and whoever they sign could tell us what's going to happen. If it's someone like Hassan Reddick or something, then you're like, okay, Vaughn's probably coming back. Um, and then looking ahead to the draft, I don't see us taking an edge rusher with the ninth overall pick, as um, it's not really it's not really a top heavy class for edge rushers.
Yeah,
I
I'd
think
much
you
rather
get
have Farley than Rousseau or someone like that.
right and Quiddy Pay. Quiddy Pay is probably the best one on my list, but he's like in my 15 plus overall rankings. So
Yeah,
um, they get pretty good later on. Like Joseph Osei. I would love him in the second round, but I wouldn't take him ninth overall. That's for sure. So and then there's another guy, Ojulari. All of these guys have weird names, but keep an eye on Ojulari and Osei in the second round because man, I kind of fell in love with them when I was watching their tape. But all right, dude, let's hit tackles and then we'll close this thing out with a fast round of questions for you.
okay.
All right, I want to begin with those Chiefs tackles we just released. Are you interested in either of them?
Yeah, well, of course I'm interested, especially in Schwartz. Schwartz might have been the shocker cut of the off season, man.
Yeah,
Um, I get why teams are cutting these players, and there's going to be more surprises to come because the salary cap is smaller this year. But Schwartz was a really big name, and I mean, I keep coming back to this point with big names like that, the Broncos are probably going to be outbid. Um,
Hmm.
so, and I mean, and you know what? Let's really quick give credit again to Garrett Bowles, Evan,
Sure,
because
why not?
he was he was one of our best players last year. He was night and day compared to the previous year. We never really heard his name during a game for penalties. So, yeah, kudos to him for that.
And he got paid for it.
Yes, he earned his money last year. Um, but yeah, I mean, tackle isn't as glaring of a need. Uh, I mean, I'd much prefer Schwartz to like James or DeMar Dotson, obviously. But again, it's just, in my opinion, it's wishful thinking for us to seriously pursue a name like that. And I mean, you do have like the same division, rivalry, grudge holding, um, storylines.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, that just seems like it's too good to be true to pursue him. And then, guys like Trent Williams, obviously, we can't
Oh man,
pursue. And Taylor Motown was just re-signed.
yeah.
So
Daryl Williams was just resigned.
yeah, today. Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't know. The Broncos may address that position, but it's not a position of need. I feel like they'd be more inclined or more likely to re-sign Elijah Wilkinson, but we'll see.
Hmm. Um, well, I mean, I honestly think we got a shot at Schwartz just for that rival thing. I mean, like you said, that was a shocking release, and he probably had his feelings hurt a little bit, if that's possible for a offensive tackle.
That wasn't
uh,
very nice.
yeah, but if it wasn't him, um, you're looking at people like, how about Alejandro Villanueva, who's been a steady guy
He's a good bet. Yeah.
for the Steelers these many years. Um, I mean, I looked at his grades the past several years, and he's always steady. Um, but um, honestly, we should have started with this. Like, we're only in need of right tackle, and
Right, with Bulls on the left side. Yeah.
right, and some of these guys, almost all of them, all of the main ones are in their 30s, and I'm not entirely sure that they would want to, change their positions later in their career. So, I mean, I'm looking at Schwartz. He played right tackle for
Yeah.
all these years, and I honestly think we have a chance at him if he doesn't retire from his injury. He was injured last year, so. But like you said, Trent Williams off the table. No, thank you. He's a left tackle anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Eric Fisher is left tackle. He's had just as
Yep.
good grades as Schwartz, but like I said, he probably wouldn't want to switch positions or flip. Who knows? And then
Yeah.
and then my last one on my list here was Rick Wagner.
I was just gonna bring him up because he's a right tackle and would make more sense. But
Yeah, and I mean he's kind of your perfect piece, I think, because he can start. He had a 78 PFF grade last year, so but at the same time, say Juwan James does work out and he's healthy and in shape after COVID, sitting out a year. Um,
yeah,
you probably only paid Rick Wagner a small amount in probably 1 to 2 years. So I think he's like he'd be a good piece for the puzzle here. But Juwan James just scares me, dude. Like for one, like we said, we overpaid him, and then who knows what he's gonna look like. So I think we definitely need some depth here. But at the same time, this has been over on Twitter too. I still definitely say we have the best offensive line now in the AFC West. Would you agree?
Yeah, I was going to add that I'm definitely okay with how our offensive line looks right now, and I would much prefer Denver to look at other positions that are more glaring because I don't think the offensive line is glaring
Right.
by any means. I'm okay with it as is, and I would hope that James has been staying in shape and working out and all that this whole time. I would
Hmm.
hope so, and I do kind of want to see what he can bring to this line for a full season because I have high hopes for our line. Um, so yeah,
Hmm.
again we have other needs, and I think um, George Payton would be okay with this line going into the season.
Yep, for sure. I think we really need depth, like we mentioned,
Hmm.
and you can find that in free agency. But also, tackles is one of the deeper classes in the draft this year. Um, so if you wanted to take a mid-round pick and select a tackle, you're probably going to get a pretty decent one who can learn behind someone and give you depth at the same time. So um, yeah, not too worried about that. Um, Knowing that we'll get some depth and we have the best offensive line in the AFC West. So and another Chief that was hit free agency was Mike Remmers.
Oh,
So I'm not entirely sure what they're gonna do, to be
yeah,
honest.
yeah.
I know Patrick Mahomes, uh, just restructured his contract. Did you see that? It was like an hour ago or two.
Oh, today I didn't see
Yeah.
that.
So he freed up space for them, probably to fill. You guys need to block me. Let me restructure my contract so
I'm
you can
losing
get someone.
everyone.
So I think I know what they're gonna be taking in the first round, and I mean it's a year too. So
Yeah,
any more comments on tackles, man?
no,
All
no.
right. Kind of a boring subject, but I mean, look at the Super Bowl and what happened, Zach, and tell me they're not important.
Yep. Cam got destroyed on that right side.
Um, all right, so let's see. Let's do a little draft preview. Are you? Let me ask you this: Are you right now in love with a quarterback that you would say we have to take if he falls to number 9, other than Zach Wilson or Trevor Lawrence?
It would be hard to pass on the other two guys. Um, by that I mean Justin Fields and Trey Lance. I'm kind of warming up a little bit to Trey Lance, Evan. Uh, I thought he was a little raw, and I watched some of his pro day today, and I mean he's not perfect by any means, but he ran that pro style offense at North Dakota State. He is so versatile and so athletic and so gifted.
Yeah, man.
I think in the one game he played, which is what sucks, he only played one game last season, and I mean, it wasn't good of a game for him, but even in a bad game, I think he ran for 100 yards, I want to say. So
Mm-hmm.
I've heard guys compare him to like a smaller Dante Culpepper or who was the guy Daniel Jeremiah was saying? Oh, they were saying Josh Allen, which I saw some of too. Like maybe even a more athletic
Yeah.
Josh Allen, but not as gifted of a passer. But he's got a really good arm. So, I mean, I would imagine there will be teams who want to trade up for Fields and
Yeah.
Lance well ahead of the
Someone's gonna
Broncos.
fall in love with him.
Yeah. So, I mean, the Dolphins, I could see the Dolphins for sure trading back with someone at number 3 um, with a team that wants to get one of these guys. So, I mean, to me, if the Broncos really wanted to draft a QB, they would have to trade up for one. And
Yeah.
I don't like the idea of Mac Jones at 9 either. I think that might be too early.
So, well, it's funny you mentioned him because I'm kind of got a crush on him now.
So
But
you wouldn't mind him at number 9?
if he was there, I would say you got to take him. To be honest, uh, like you said, Trey Lance kind of impressed me today. I didn't realize he was that big, dude. Like he is built well, and
Yeah.
but he's my biggest beef with him is he hasn't played much, and he's raw, like you said, and we kind of have that already with Drew
Yeah.
Lock. So I don't necessarily want another project,
Hmm.
and I think probably the third most ready quarterback, NFL ready quarterback, is Mac Jones. And dude, I mean, go watch his film. He is on target every single time. It is uncanny. His accuracy. Like, I don't, people have been saying this all over Twitter, but seriously, I don't know what the beef is with this guy other than he's not sexy or he doesn't look good. In a uniform, he's not a Zach Wilson or a Patrick Mahomes slinging it sideways and underthrowing it. But his pocket presence awareness is absolutely. I mean, he looked like a veteran out there and on the money every time. He doesn't have the biggest arm. He may have underthrown some balls, but seriously, like he's got. I talked to Taylor about this. His pocket presence is like Tom Brady esque. I mean, the way he feels a pocket and can shift around in the pocket. I mean, I haven't seen that in a rookie quarterback since I started really getting into researching the past couple of years, few years. So that's one thing that really shocked me. But I will say this: I think he has to go to the right offense, and I do
Oh,
think the Broncos have the right offense for him. Bunch of play action and not necessarily needing to run around all that much. Although Locke did that on his own last year, didn't really need to do it. But I will say he needs to go to the right offense. And I thought the Patriots may be the right offense for him, like out of anyone. Or the 49ers could be fun. You could put any quarterback in the 49ers offense and Shanahan would make him succeed. So, but but the Patriots re-signed Cam Newton, and it's a whole different style of quarterback. It's more of a Trey Lance style of quarterback. So,
yeah.
all that being said, dude, I mean, if he was at 9, Mac Jones at 9, and I was the GM, I would say I have to take him because I think he's NFL ready. Um, Considering that Trevor Lawrence and Zach Wilson were the only two NFL ready quarterbacks, I'd feel way more comfortable taking Mac Jones over Trey Lance or Justin Fields. And of those quarterbacks, Justin Fields is my least favorite. So, um, yeah, Mac Jones, Trey Lance, if they're there, I I definitely want Mac Jones. I wouldn't mind Trey Lance, like you were saying. I mean, he's super tempting. Uh, and
Hmm.
honestly, like I was sitting there watching him this morning, and he kind of reminded me of
Who was it?
Justin Herbert, because
Trey Lance
you
did?
know, well, not his
Like the arm talent?
physical. Yeah, so like big gun, what Elway would want. Not that he's a GM anymore, but and in the back of my head, I'm thinking Elway passed on Herbert even though he really wanted him, right? And that's who he was kind of waiting for all these past years. There was a story on it. And then Drew Lock
Yeah.
succeeded and said, hey, we may not need you anymore. And then Lock sucked and Herbert absolutely blew up. So Elway, I mean, I could see him being like, telling his life story as GM and saying, don't miss this guy, George Payton. Draft Trey Lance. You won't regret it. So
Hmm.
we'll see. I honestly would be pretty surprised if we drafted Trey Lance, and I would even be more surprised if he was there because I think he's
Yeah,
the type of quarterback that some team is going to fall in love with and trade up
yeah.
for.
I would imagine there will be at least a team or two that will trade up for one of the top 4 or 5 QBs.
So
And
do you think that any of those five quarterbacks are there for the Broncos?
if they are, Jones would be the guy who was there.
Really? You don't think
Um,
Fields?
yeah, Fields. I guess Fields could be still be there. But I mean, I feel like the more likely scenario is teams will trade up for these guys. The Broncos will sign a vet like Fitz or Dalton and then draft a cornerback because they know that teams will trade ahead of them. They're not in a high enough spot to get one of these guys.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that's the most likely scenario is they'll just plan on Farley or Surtain or whoever. Um,
Well,
Because yeah, I mean the ninth pick is great, but it's still not high enough.
let me throw this at you. So the reason why we got Drew Lock is because he fell to us, and they weren't expecting him to be there in the second round.
Yeah.
So say we have Trey Lance, Mac Jones, um, say number 5 on our draft board, but we're not necessarily in love with them, and they fall to us. I mean, what do you do then?
That's yeah. I mean, honestly, if one of those guys was still there and there was still a team calling you, begging for you to trade, would you trade back with that pick?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I'm glad I'm not the GM, Zach.
Like
But
when we traded back with the Steelers when they got
yeah,
Devin Bush.
yeah.
I think that was the 10th pick. I was okay with that
So
because
here's the thing though, like we're talking quarterback though. They
I
wanted
know,
to trade up for a linebacker.
I know.
So you're going to get a lot more if they want a quarterback. I mean, you might be looking at a future first round pick
Uh,
depending on who you're trading with. So it's going to be interesting, man. We got a lot of off season to look ahead and
so
look forward to.
here's another question then, Evan. Are you totally ruling out Micah Parsons if he's there at number 9?
Absolutely not. I think
Because
well
I like Micah Parsons.
if you watch my top 10 mock draft, everybody, you will see that I
Yeah.
selected Micah Parsons at number 9.
Hmm.
And yeah,
That didn't
dude.
include trades though, right? That was just straight up.
Yeah, that was straight up, no trades. So it was between him and Farley, I think. Mac Jones
Interesting.
went to the Panthers actually, who I don't really know if they would
See,
like, but
yeah, if the Panthers don't trade for Watson, I would think they would be my top candidate to trade up for Lance or Fields or
mhm.
whoever.
Yeah, it's the Panthers are a big piece in this uh, chess setup, whatever you want to say,
Yeah,
chess match.
they're
So
quarterback needy and they have a high pick.
yeah, and right before us too. So
Hmm.
um, but it's kind of nice, like knowing that we pick ahead of all of the other AFC West teams this year, unlike last year where we were pretty worried about who the Raiders were going to take. So
Yeah.
I do like that, but it's too early to see what we're going to do. And like I said, free agency is going to be a big tell in what we do. So we just need to give it more time, but it's fun to talk about. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, go watch Mac Jones, dude, and then we can talk about him more next time.
Yeah, I mean, like
But,
you said, he didn't like flash, but his
yeah,
numbers were off the charts.
he
I
doesn't
think he
turn the
had
ball
almost
over.
like an 80% or 80 completion percentage, I want to say.
Yeah, and
He's just,
and much like Trey Lance, which was actually surprising, he doesn't turn the ball over. Those two quarterbacks really did, and Zach Wilson, I think. I think those three quarterbacks, correct me if I'm wrong, had fewer interceptions than Trevor Lawrence, but I
that
could
might
be
be the
wrong.
case.
Could be wrong on that, but yeah, man, I think it's a really good quarterback class, and I would agree with Chris Sims that it's better than last year. And I think he did have I think he had Zach Wilson ahead of.
Now, wait just a minute here. You think Lawrence and, I mean, I'm okay with Lawrence. You think the two best in this class are better than Herbert and Burrow? Is that what you're telling me?
I think Zach Wilson is.
You think Zach Wilson is better than Justin Herbert?
I do. Yes.
Whoa, whoa, breaking news. Wow, okay. I did
I
not know
mean,
that. I did not know that, Evan.
and I'm not just copying Chris Sims here because I've loved. I've
Oh,
talked
is that
to
what Chris Sims said? He's like your
dude.
holy grail.
Listen, dude. I've been talking up Zach Wilson since like November,
I
and
know.
I was showing you all his stuff. He is Patrick Mahomes-esque, and I don't take that lightly. I don't say that lightly, okay? But the throws he makes on pinpoint accuracy
I do love his
from
accuracy.
from any angle, he's mobile, he's athletic. I mean, there's nothing not to love other than he played at BYU, really.
That
But
is the main concern is yeah.
but so he's my number one overall quarterback, and I think he would have
Over
been
Lawrence.
last year too. Yeah. So you asked me over Herbert and Burrow. I would probably say Zach Wilson, um, Herbert, Lawrence, Burrow.
Burrow
Now
is
that
fourth.
now that we've seen them a little bit, right? But probably from a draft standpoint, without like, I mean, obviously I'm biased now, but I probably would have said Zach Wilson, Burrow, Lawrence maybe, and then Herbert. So
Okay.
whatever,
Well, and I
but
mean it's easier to make these judgments in
yeah,
hindsight after watching Burrow and Herbert do what they did.
yeah. But you
But
asked me.
yes, yes. So you definitely think then that Wilson is more Peyton than Ryan Leaf?
Yeah, I wouldn't compare Lawrence to Ryan Leaf. I mean, I think there's
No, that's not what I meant, but yeah, I see what you're saying.
yeah, I would take Wilson over him. Um, I have some concerns about Lawrence. I don't know if he's that NFL ready that people think, and
It's hard to live up to that kind of hype when it's been that high for so long.
for that long too, and
Since high school.
he's had so many people looking at him, and I don't know. I assume he's going to do well. I honestly I would expect a Burrow-esque season from him this year. Hopefully not the same injury, but
Yeah, yeah, he'll still be
um,
the first pick.
yeah, probably. I'm not sold on that yet, but probably.
Rip,
I'd say
Rip Gardner Minshew.
yeah, 80%. And Urban Meyer seems enamored with him, so we'll see. But I think we should bring this thing to a close. By the way, guys, if you want any of our merch, it is 35% off today only, 11 more hours. And you can get this fancy mug here that I'm
Look at
drinking
that.
from the Babbling
Look at
Bronco.
our mugs on that mug.
Yeah. So, and then you can even get some magnets if you don't want to go full on mug or t-shirts. And here's some magnets. Zach, you should have one of these,
You could
right?
put a magnet on your mug. Yeah, I got one
So,
right over here.
yeah, I don't think magnets stick onto mugs, but
You
whatever
just
floats your boat.
tape them.
Yeah, just tape them. All right. Well, thanks for joining me, Zachary, and thank you,
Yeah,
audience. Hopefully, we didn't do too terrible on our first video podcast. So,
yeah. Sorry about
um,
the aesthetics.
please. Hey, we do have cool hats, though, dude.
Yeah,
At
we got to
least we got
represent.
that.
Yeah.
So, um, hopefully, you guys join us next time. We'll probably be recapping free agency. I think Taylor's with me next time. No offense, Zach, but
Sure.
we will recap free agency and look a little ahead to the draft when we, have more information in our pockets. And so, yeah, we will babble at you next time.
See you guys.